Hi, my name is Angel Jimenez and I'm taking FTH 223-53109 hammer fired pistols. Today's date is September 15, 2024. My instructor is Dr. D or Captain D. This is week 5 final assignment. And there's proof of my class with the date. And I have some notes that I wrote down so that I can keep track of the lesson. Okay. So, as you can see, I have no ammo present, no live ammo present on my workstation. My CZ75 is field stripped. So I'll show you that there's no ammo. My slide. And that my feeding source, the magazine, is empty. So for part 1, using your hammer-fired handgun as a demonstration piece, show and describe all the areas in your firearm that are particular interest when inspecting the health of the firearm, and explain why these areas are of particular concern. So, starting with the slide, right, overlooking the integrity of the slide, making sure that my front where the barrel would come through, making sure that it's damage free, no burrs, no nicks, so that my slide can move freely when the slide is moving rearward. On some pistols, you would have a hole for your guide rod to go through, so y'all would check that, make sure that there's no burrs or nicks or dents, cracks, or anything that would hinder my guide rod coming through. But this is a closed face one, so that it's captive. Then I will go to my sights, making sure that they're secured and they're not loose. Making sure my extractor is tight and that it has a spring action to it, so that way it snaps over my rim of my cartridge. The firing pin, making sure that it can protrude through the breech face. My plunger, making sure that it has no binding and that it goes up and down freely. I'm going to check my guide rails, making sure that there's no cracks, dents, nicks. That is going to hinder the reciprocating action of going rear forward as it's being fired. Checking the internal the locking lugs for the barrel to lock to the slide. I can take I'm going to take the barrel, and I can visually and physically feel the barrel, making sure that there's no bulges, no cracks, no defects. Checking the crown to make sure there's no dents, cracks, or nicks, or there's no deformation. The crown is not deformed. Sorry. Making sure my lugs are in pristine shape. They're not worn. There's no gouging, no dents, no burrs that it's going to interfere with locking with the slide. I'm going to make sure that my feed ramp is smooth and no damage to it as well, the locking lugs. Making sure, right? I can take the barrel, take a no-go gauge, insert it into the barrel, and then lock it in place. As such, to show that it's locked and it's operating correctly, and my extractor is going over the rim. And I can take a no-go gauge, insert it into the barrel as well, and try to lock it. And it doesn't lock fully, it doesn't seat fully. There's a gap in between, right here. There's a gap. It doesn't seat fully. So that tells me that the barrel is it's properly fit. The chamber's not worn. I can check my recoil spring, making sure that my recoil spring is not damaged, not kinked, bent. Guide rod is, there's no damage burrs. I can check my magazine to make sure that my follower springs freely. The outlook or the overall structure, that is no cracks, no dents. My feed ramps, my feed lips are in the correct position, that they're not deformed, and it's going to allow the cartridges to travel up with the follower and the spring, and then captive with the feed lips, and then allow it to guide into your ramp. I would look over my frame, making sure that my hammer locks with the sears, making sure that my safety works, looking at the internal frame of the guide rod, making sure that there's no damage to them. I will look at my ejector, making sure that it's not deformed, making sure that my springs are not deformed or broken, the tabs or the legs, making sure that my sear is operating correctly. The overall, the mag release, making sure that it locks my magazine, and that it, when I depress the mag release button, that it operates smoothly. So I have my firearm back together. Magazine is empty. Locking it to the rear. I'm gonna visually and physically check to make sure that there's no ammo. Mag well is empty. All right. So part 2 is going to be identify 10 different learning experiences you have had throughout the course, this course, and articulate why those were learning experiences for you, and explain how how you plan to strengthen those points in the future. So learning how to detail strip this CZ75, so the detail stripping and then reassembly. I've never done that before, so that was something very vital for me to learn, in that I'm in the business now of I opened up my shop, and we do gunsmithing and cleaning of firearms. So learning how to take a hammer-fired pistol apart, full detail, was very helpful. Learning about the differences of mass comps, being that it the one that was provided by the course for a Glock 19 wouldn't fit on a CZ75 due to the fact that it is a close face slide, so the guide rod doesn't protrude through the slide, so that you would get a threaded barrel comp if your state allowed it, and then there's some like 1911s that have a bushing comp that you can install. Learning how to get, or learning how we got to this point, from the percussion caps, flint, and so on to this, what we have in front of us now. Learning how to blueprint a part, or how to read the schematics, learning how, drawing out a firing pin, the extractor, the guide rod, and getting the measurements if I needed to manufacture one of those parts. Learning how to do it was very interesting and rewarding for me. And then the schematics, learning how to find the part, and on the schematic, and by taking a number and then looking at it in the menu of items. The CZ75 and the Browning High Power were designed for about the same markets, and that the CZ was a later design, so they had a little more, since it came out after the High Power. They had more time to improve some of the features that the High Power had, that CZ added to this to make it different. 1820, Charles Caleb Colton wrote, "Imitations is the sincerest of flattery, meaning that there's going to be copies made of any model. So the CZ, the M1911s, and so on and so on, they're going to be cloned in today's market. So it's utilizing this as the blueprint and then putting their spin on it. Learning about the differences of the coatings from PVDs, rust browning, cold bluing, whether it was hot, cold, parkerizing, anodizing, nitrating, or spray-on finishes. All those have their certain reasonings for their the choice on the finish that the manufacturers choose for that to aid in keeping it protected from rusting and different applications and care. There's different care procedures for each type of finishing. The different types of comps, like I said, being a guide rod attached, or threaded barrel attached, or bushing comps. The difference on ejectors being there's fixed or dynamics, making sure that finishes allow for proper fit. So if you were to finish, depending on what type of finish, making sure that you adhere to the application procedures, and that once you go to fit everything back together, that everything fits properly, that it doesn't impede in the fit of the slide to the frame, or the slide catch, the guide rod, or the barrel locking lugs to the frame locking lugs, that it doesn't you don't add more than what it needs or required. Improvements for part 3. Maybe working on the trigger, maybe polishing it a little bit so that it's a little bit smoother. But I would leave it as is, just slight tuning. And if I was to change anything, it would be the sights. I would go with like night sights, and I looked up Cajun Guns Works, and he had different prices ranging from, like, for the set, $79 to $125, and depending on, I went with the high end, the 125, and in shipping there was 3 different versions of shipping costs. So you had your minimum 14, then it was $49.05, and then $69.80. Tax was $11.56, so totaling you had $11.50.56, $185.61, or $206.36. And those were your different prices on shipping for replacements of your sites. And I think if I was to choose to change customers' sites like this, I believe I would charge the cost of the shipping, the tax, and then the component, along with my time to replace them. So I would be looking at the low end, that if I was to charge them $150.56 because there's no rush, that plus $65 for my time. And then I looked at other gun shops in our town, and their pricings are higher than what I would charge. They would normally charge $125 per hour for their gunsmith's time, plus installation fee, and then plus the cost of the parts and shipping and taxing. So a customer would probably be looking at anywhere from like $250, $275 on up to like $400. So $150 from me plus this $65. That's putting me around like $210, $220. So my prices are going to be a little bit lower than my competitors. And I used, for my references, were my lectures. I used Google. I used Cajun Gun Works for some of my references. And thank you, and have a great day. Bye.